Good evening and welcome to a quiet journey into the past. Tonight we will travel back to the winter of 1888, a winter so cold, so heavy with snow that people would remember it for generations. But don't worry, we will explore this moment in history slowly, softly, the way one watches snow fall from a warm window while the night grows quiet around us. So settle down, let your breathing slow, and imagine yourself stepping gently into another time. Tonight, we will learn how families, mothers, fathers, children, grandparents, survived the long, freezing nights during the Great Blizzard of 1888. As the world outside was covered in deep white silence, how did people sleep? How did they stay warm? How did they comfort their children and protect their homes against the cold wind? Let's take a slow walk into their world, a world lit by lanterns, heated by wood stoves, and held together by the quiet strength of family. Imagine you are walking through a small town in 1888. The streets are quiet, the lamps are dim, and the air smells like wood smoke. There are no cars yet, no electric heaters, no phones, just the soft crunch of boots on snow and the sound of a distant horse pulling a wagon. Homes are small wooden houses with thin walls and chimneys that must stay hot through the night. Inside these homes, families prepare for sleep in a way very different from today. Let's step inside one of these homes slowly, as if we are opening a door made of old pine wood. Inside, we see a family moving carefully, quietly, because every action is precious on a winter night. The mother checks the wood stove, making sure the last logs are placed just right. The fire must last through the night or the room will become painfully cold. The father brings in extra firewood and places it near the stove. Each piece is important, a small guardian against the cold. Children sit close together, wrapped in wool blankets, watching their parents prepare the house. There is no sound of electricity, no hum of heaters, only the soft crackling of wood and the slow sigh of the wind outside. The family knows that once they lie down to sleep, the blizzard will continue its wild dance outside, but indoors, they will create a small island of warmth. Let us look at how people slept. Bedrooms were not warm. Only the room with the stove held real heat. So at night, many families slept together in the warmest room of the house. Imagine a room with one warm corner and many quilts piled on the floor to make a soft space for everyone. Children curled close to each other. The youngest might sleep between the parents so their tiny bodies stayed warm. Sometimes even pets, a dog or a cat, were welcome to sleep near the family because every warm body helped. The blankets were heavy, wool, cotton, or thick quilts made by hand over many winters. People didn't have light blankets. They needed weight, a comforting heaviness that kept the cold away. As the fire glowed quietly, families whispered small conversations or shared stories or simply listened to the wind. People did not sleep in thin clothes. They wore soft wool socks, long underwear, layers of flannel, and sometimes even scarves or caps. Yes, sleeping caps were real, and they were not just for style. In freezing homes, even your ears needed protection. Imagine the feeling, sliding into bed wearing warm layers that hold heat close to your skin, with blankets above you and the sound of the fire beside you. A quiet cocoon against the storm outside. As night deepens, the blizzard sings its cold song. Winds tapping on the walls, snow brushing the windows, and the deep quiet that follows a heavy snowfall. Families listen to this sound with mixed feelings. Some felt peaceful because they were finally warm and together. Some felt a little worried, hoping the roof would hold, hoping the morning would come soon. But in our gentle journey tonight, we listen to the storm as just another sound of nature, a reminder that inside the home, all is calm and secure. Every hour, someone might wake up just long enough to feed the fire so the room did not freeze. Fathers often took this duty. Sometimes mothers did too. They would rise quietly, their breath visible in the cool air, place new logs into the stove, and return to bed bringing warmth back with them. Children rarely woke. For them, the night felt long and comforting, like drifting in a warm cocoon while the world outside disappeared behind white silence. The closeness of family was the greatest source of warmth. People slept shoulder to shoulder, sharing heat, sharing breath, sharing the gentle quiet of night. This closeness created a deep feeling of safety in a world where storms could be dangerous. Imagine a child falling asleep on their grandmother's arm, or siblings whispering softly until their eyes grew heavy, or parents holding their youngest as the fire glowed warmly nearby. In moments like these, the storm outside felt far away. When morning came, light slowly filled the room, and the fire had become soft ash. Families would rise slowly, stretching beneath the warm blankets, breathing out long clouds of steam in the cold morning air. Someone would restart the fire. Someone would warm water. Someone would peek outside to see how much snow had fallen. But before the day began, they enjoyed a quiet moment, grateful they had made it through the night safe and warm in their small, bright home. And now, as our journey into 1888 comes to an end, let the calm of those quiet winter nights stay with you. Families of the past slept close together, shared warmth, and trusted the slow-burning fire to guard them through the blizzard. Tonight, as you rest, let that same sense of warmth and protection surround you too. Thank you for being here, for taking this slow walk through history with me. May your night be peaceful, your dreams soft, and your sleep warm and deep. Good night. As the storm continued its slow, heavy fall outside, the family inside the small wooden home moved with a gentle rhythm. No one hurried. No one rushed, because in nights like these, life moved softly like the drifting snowflakes. The lamps burned low, casting warm circles of golden light on the wooden floor. Shadows swayed across the walls, dancing softly with the firelight. The mother sat near the stove, her hands wrapped around a tin cup of warm broth. The father checked the stove door again, making sure the fire was breathing well, its gentle glow lighting the whole room. The children lay close together on a thick quilt, blinking slowly as sleep began to settle upon their small, tired eyes. Outside, The wind brushed against the house like a long sigh from the winter sky. It did not frighten them, not tonight, because they had each other, and the warmth they created together was stronger than the storm. The grandmother, wrapped in a shawl that she had woven many winters ago, began telling a slow, quiet story. A story she had told many times about winters from her own childhood. Her voice was steady and soft, rising and falling like a calm heartbeat, guiding the children gently toward sleep. The fire crackled. The wind whispered. The night deepened. And inside, warmth gathered like a comforting embrace, holding the family together in a world of snow and silence. As the grandmother's story drifted gently through the room, the father placed another log into the stove. The flames rose slowly, stretching like sleepy arms before settling again into a quiet glow. The warmth spread out in soft waves, touching every corner of the room. It warmed the wooden walls, the iron pots resting nearby, the small shoes placed neatly beside the door. Even the windows, frosted with thin white patterns, seemed to shimmer in the gentle heat. The mother began laying out extra quilts, thick ones filled with old cotton and wool scraps. They were heavy, comfortably heavy, the kind of blankets that pressed you down into a deep, peaceful sleep. She smoothed each quilt slowly, as if calming the night itself. The children watched her with half-closed eyes, their breathing slower now, their minds drifting between wakefulness and dreams. The parents didn't speak much tonight. There was no need. Their quiet movements were a language of their own, a soft conversation made of care. The father filled a small kettle with snow and placed it near the stove to melt. Warm water would be needed in the morning. Everything they did tonight was a preparation for the long white world waiting outside. The grandmother's story came to a peaceful pause, and for a moment the entire room felt suspended in time, a tiny island of warmth floating in a sea of winter. The storm continued, its soft roar surrounding the house like a distant ocean. But inside, the family existed in their own warm circle, bound together by fire, blankets, and the gentle quiet of a winter night. The youngest child shifted closer to her mother, resting her head against a warm shoulder. The mother smiled softly, her hand brushing gently through the child's hair. No matter how cold the world became, this moment, this togetherness was enough. The family breathed in the warmth and breathed out the worries of the storm, letting the night settle around them like a gentle lullaby. The night grew deeper, and the storm outside thickened into a soft, endless curtain of white. Snow piled against the door, crept up the windows, and muffled every sound of the world beyond. Inside, the family felt the stillness settling, a calm weight that made every movement slow, every breath long, every sound gentle. The father sat near the window, watching the snow swirl in slow spirals as if the sky were pouring down feathers. He knew tomorrow would be difficult, paths buried, chores doubled, and the bitter cold waiting outside. But tonight, his only task was to protect the warmth of this small home. The mother finished tucking the quilts around the children, layer by layer making a soft nest of warmth and safety. The little ones, now fully wrapped, looked like tiny bundled cocoons, their faces calm, their eyes fluttering with sleep. The grandmother closed her eyes for a moment, listening to the house breathe, the crackle of fire, the sigh of the wind, the quiet shifting of blankets. She remembered blizzards from her youth, storms far worse than this one, and she smiled softly, knowing that families have always survived by staying close, by sharing warmth, by becoming each other's shelter. The father finally stepped away from the window and sat near the stove, warming his hands before slipping under a quilt beside the children. His breath joined the slow rhythm of the room, a gentle chorus of steady, peaceful sound. Soon the mother rested as well, the glow of the fire painting soft golden shapes across her face. She breathed deeply, letting the warmth seep into her bones. The storm outside raged with its swirling winds and thick falling snow, but the house was a quiet world of its own, a warm lantern in the heart of a frozen night. The family lay close, their warmth shared, their hearts calm, their dreams ready to rise like soft smoke from the stove's quiet fire. In that deep winter stillness, the night felt endless, but also gentle, a long, slow breath held safely between wooden walls. As the hours drifted by, the fire inside the stove settled into a calm, steady burn. Its soft glow pulsed through the small room like a quiet heartbeat guiding the night forward. The shadows on the walls moved slowly, stretching and shrinking with every flicker of the flame. To the half-asleep children, these shadows looked like gentle shapes, soft mountains, slow waves, or drifting clouds made of light. The grandmother opened her eyes briefly and listened to the fire's whisper. It was a sound she had known all her life, a companion of countless winter nights, steady, warm, dependable. That crackle meant safety. That glow meant survival. She shifted slightly, pulling her shawl closer around her shoulders. The wool was thick, hand-spun years ago, now carrying the faint scent of cedar and winter air. It was as comforting as a familiar embrace. Near the stove, the melted snow in the kettle began to steam lightly, sending a soft warmth into the room. The father, half asleep, heard it faintly and smiled without opening his eyes. Even the smallest warmth felt like a gift on a blizzard night. The mother stirred quietly, not waking fully, but simply adjusting a corner of the quilt that had slipped from the youngest child. She tucked it back gently, her hand lingering for a moment on the child's small, warm arm. Outside, the world was disappearing under deeper and deeper layers of snow. The winds rushed across the plains, but the thick walls of the house softened every gust into nothing more than a distant sigh. The entire world felt muted, wrapped in a blanket of white silence. Inside, the family slept in peaceful waves, drifting, rising, settling again into the rhythm of the warm night. A dog curled at their feet, its fur rising and falling with slow, content breaths. The grandmother reached down and placed a gentle hand on its warm back, drawing comfort from the quiet companionship. The fire glowed on steadily, faithfully, holding the cold at bay while the night moved forward one slow moment at a time. The storm outside could rage as fiercely as it wished, but within these walls, held by warmth and family, the night remained calm, soft, safe, and time drifted on like falling snow, quiet and unhurried. As midnight passed quietly, the blizzard outside reached its coldest breath. Snow pressed heavier against the door, and the windows glowed faintly where frost had grown thick as feathers. But inside the small home, warmth lingered like a gentle memory that refused to fade. The father stirred briefly, blinking slowly as he rose to check the fire. His movements were calm and unhurried, as if he were drifting through a dream. He opened the stove door just a little, letting out a warm orange glow that filled the room like a soft sunrise. The room flickered with new light, the quilts, the wooden floor, the sleeping faces around him, all illuminated in a warm, tender way that made him pause for a moment and breathe in the peace of it. He placed 2 more logs inside, listening to the quiet crackle as the flames caught hold. The warmth blossomed slowly, spreading through the air with a kind, steady patience. He closed the door gently and stood for a moment, feeling the heat rest against his hands like a reassuring touch. Behind him, the children slept without stirring. Their faces were calm, their breaths deep and steady, their small hands curled softly beneath the heavy quilts. The mother, too, remained asleep, her features relaxed in a rare moment of true rest. The grandmother shifted slightly, her shawl slipping from her shoulder. The father walked slowly toward her, lifting the edge of the shawl and tucking it back with quiet care. She murmured something soft, the kind of sleepy sound only someone who feels safe will make. He smiled gently before returning to his own place beneath the quilts. The storm pressed on, filling the night with swirling snow and distant wind. But the house stood firm, its old wooden beams creaking softly as if stretching against the cold. And inside, the warmth of the fire, the closeness of family, and the steady rhythm of sleep formed a quiet world separate from the frozen darkness outside. The minutes passed slowly, as if time itself had curled up to rest beside them, wrapped in quilts and firelight. No one rushed, no one worried. The night was simply a long, gentle breath, and the family rested within it, safe and warm. The blizzard continued to whisper and howl, but the little wooden house breathed warmly from within, like a living creature holding its family close. Its walls, though old and thin, held steady against the gusting wind. Every beam, every nail seemed to offer its quiet strength to protect the people sleeping inside. Inside the room, the air shimmered faintly with heat rising from the stove. It wasn't hot, just a soft, comfortable warmth that wrapped itself around everyone like a slow, gentle hug. The father slept again, his breathing deep and even. The long day of preparing for the storm had left him tired, and now the quiet warmth of the room pulled him into peaceful rest. The mother shifted only once, just enough to adjust the quilt over the youngest child's feet. Even in her sleep, she remained aware of her children, a soft instinct guiding her hands through the night. The youngest child cuddled closer into the warmth of the blankets, a tiny smile forming unconsciously as she nestled deeper into her little cocoon of softness. The older children lay still, their arms lightly touching as siblings often do when they feel comfort nearby. They were dreaming, though their dreams were gentle shapes of warmth and color, unbothered by the storm outside. The grandmother's breathing was slow and steady, almost in rhythm with the crackling fire. She had seen many winters, many storms, but nights like this, nights filled with closeness, with shared warmth, with the softness of family, were the ones she remembered the most. The dog stretched its legs lazily and rolled onto its side, exhaling a deep content sigh. It knew in that simple, instinctive way that it was safe among its people, wrapped in their warmth just as they were wrapped in the heat of the stove. Outside, snowflakes danced in millions, swirling through the darkness in silent, icy patterns. Every inch of the world beyond the home was covered in white now, cold and still, as if time had paused. But inside, light flickered gently, warming the walls, the quilts, the faces of the sleeping family. That soft, glowing light carried a promise that no matter how harsh the storm became, the night would remain gentle for everyone within this room. And so the winter night deepened, quietly, calmly, as the fire glowed and the little home breathed warmth into the heart of the blizzard. As the storm raged on outside, time inside the house seemed to slow. The old wooden clock in the corner ticked softly, its sound almost like a lullaby. Each tick measured the gentle passing of the night, reminding the family that even storms have rhythm, and even darkness has its quiet intervals. The father shifted slightly, turning his head toward the window. He could see faint shadows of snow moving across the glass, but he didn't wake fully. He knew the house would hold them safe as long as the wind blew. The mother's hand rested on the child next to her, feeling the steady rise and fall of breathing. Even in sleep, she stayed connected, like threads weaving the family into one protective blanket. Outside, the wind pressed against the walls, whistling in high notes that could have been frightening. But inside, the sound was softened, transformed into a rhythm that was almost musical, a melody to guide the family gently through the deepest hours of the storm. The children dreamed of faraway places, but their dreams always returned to warmth, to the glowing stove, the soft quilts, the familiar scent of home. Even the grandmother seemed to hum quietly in her sleep, as if the storm itself could not shake her calm. She had seen many winters, but this one, this blizzard of 1888, was special in the way it drew the family together, showing the strength of small comforts against nature's wildest fury. The dog curled tighter, its fur rising with each exhale, nestled between the legs of the older children. It was a small heartbeat of life against the vast, cold silence of the night outside. The fire, though quiet now, still sent sparks of warmth into every corner. Shadows danced on the walls, telling ancient stories in flickering light, stories of nights survived, of homes kept safe, of families wrapped in quiet love. As the clock ticked on, the storm continued, but inside this little home, every heartbeat, every breath, every soft movement of a hand or a quilt kept the darkness at bay. And slowly, slowly, the night began to feel longer, not as something to endure, but as something to sink into, a long, protective, quiet embrace. As the hours drifted by, the blizzard outside became a soft whisper, its voice weaving through the eaves and chimneys. Inside, the house felt like a small island, a refuge from the cold and the snow's relentless march. The children stirred slightly in their sleep, turning toward one another, finding warmth in the shared space beneath the quilts. Even in the deepest dreams, they sensed the comfort of family as if the love around them was a silent shield. The father's hand rested on the arm of the eldest child, a small, unconscious gesture of protection. He did not speak. Words were not needed. The quiet presence itself was enough to calm the heart, to remind each one that they were not alone. Outside, snow drifted higher, but the windows held firm, casting soft reflections of the firelight back into the room. The patterns on the walls danced gently, creating shapes that felt alive with history and memory. The mother shifted a little, tucking in the youngest child under her shawl. Even in sleep, she remained aware of the small needs, the tiny movements that mattered in the cold. Her breath rose and fell in a steady rhythm, as if syncing with the heartbeat of the home itself. Through the night, the wind and snow became companions rather than threats. Each gust against the walls, each soft hiss through the cracks, was a reminder of the world outside and the shelter within. The dog stirred once, sniffed the air, and then lay still again. Its presence was a quiet comfort, a guardian of warmth, a witness to the small miracles of survival in the storm. In that moment, time slowed to a gentle pace. Minutes stretched, hours whispered, and the family rested in the cocoon of light, warmth, and quiet devotion. Outside, the storm continued its dance, but inside, the night became almost sacred, a time when nothing mattered except presence, safety, and the steady rhythm of hearts beating together. The family slept on, carrying each other through the cold, through the wind, through the long white night of 1888. Slowly, the first light of morning began to seep through the thick curtains and frosted windows. The world outside was hushed, blanketed in a soft, white silence. Every branch, every roof, every fence post glimmered under the gentle glow of the winter sun. Inside, the family began to stir. The children yawned and stretched beneath the heavy quilts, their small hands brushing against the warm arms of their siblings. The father carefully rose, moving quietly so as not to break the fragile calm. He opened the shutters a little and peeked outside. The snow was taller than the fence now, covering the paths and roads they had walked the day before. But instead of fear, he felt a sense of awe. Nature had wrapped the world in white, and they had survived the night together. The mother began to stir the embers in the hearth. The fire crackled softly, casting shadows that danced like gentle spirits across the walls. She hummed a quiet tune, a melody that had carried them through storms before. The children rubbed their eyes, still half dreaming, and gathered close to the fire for warmth. The dog stretched and shook itself, sniffing at the snow that had crept in through small gaps near the door. Even in the cold, the house felt alive, a sanctuary from the vast, frozen world outside. Breakfast was simple, warm porridge and bits of bread, but every bite carried comfort. Every sip of tea was a small celebration of warmth and survival. They spoke softly, sharing thoughts about the night, about the snowdrifts that now covered the fields, about the strange beauty of a world transformed by winter. As the morning grew, they prepared to face the snow-covered world outside. Shovels and tools were gathered, boots were pulled on, and each small task was done with care, a ritual of survival, of returning to life after the night. Even as they stepped into the blinding whiteness, the memory of the long night lingered, a quiet reminder that together they had faced the storm and slept through it, protected by love, warmth, and the unspoken courage of family. The day had begun, but the night's gentle magic remained, a soft echo of endurance, of togetherness, of hearts beating in harmony against the chill of 1888. Stepping outside, the world felt both unfamiliar and magical. Snow stretched in every direction, pure and bright, reflecting the weak winter sun. The air was crisp, almost biting, but their breaths formed little clouds that vanished quickly into the quiet. The children trudged carefully, boots sinking into the soft drifts. Each step was slow and measured, as if they were walking on a new planet. The father led the way, testing paths, making sure the family could move safely. Every tree branch sagged under the weight of snow, and icicles hung like delicate crystal daggers from rooftops. The mother carried a small basket, filled with whatever supplies they could use for the day. Even simple chores felt monumental now. Every movement in the snow was a reminder of the storm's power, but also of the strength that had carried them through the night. Neighbors appeared, emerging from houses like tiny figures in a white world. They greeted each other with nods and quiet words, sharing news of who had made it through the night safely, who had suffered, and who needed help. Even in this frozen expanse, a sense of community lingered, a shared understanding that the storm had been a test for everyone. Children laughed softly, making tentative footprints, sometimes slipping, sometimes hopping from drift to drift. It was a small reprieve from the long, tense night, a moment of innocence that warmed the hearts of the adults watching. The father began clearing paths, carefully moving snow to open access to the barns and storage. Every shove of the shovel was slow, deliberate, almost meditative. The mother helped the children gather wood, while the dog bounded in and out of drifts, its energy a reminder that life continues even in hardship. As they worked, the family shared stories of winters past, soft tales of smaller storms, of nights spent close to the fire, of food stretched thin but hearts full. These stories were like blankets, comforting and familiar, linking the present struggle to a history of survival. By late morning, Small paths began to emerge through the thick snow, and the family could move between house and barn without sinking too deeply. It was hard work, yes, but there was pride in their effort, a silent acknowledgement that the storm, as powerful as it had not broken them. As the sun climbed higher, shadows grew shorter, and the whiteness around them seemed almost gentle now, less threatening, more like a quiet companion. In these hours after the storm, life returned slowly, but the calm, reflective magic of the great blizzard night lingered in every heart. As the day wore on, families began to settle into a slow rhythm. The initial tension of survival softened into careful routines, each action deliberate, mindful. Snow still blanketed every surface, but the brightness of the day made it feel less like a threat and more like a gentle, sparkling world. Inside their homes, fires crackled steadily, casting a warm glow that pushed back the chill. The children, tired from both the long night and the morning's work, curled up near the hearth. Their small hands clutched blankets, and their soft whispers were the soundtrack of calm. The adults prepared meals from whatever stores had survived the storm, stretching bread, soup, and preserved vegetables into nourishing portions. Every bite was savored slowly, a quiet celebration of being alive. Even simple food felt like a small triumph, a reminder that life continued despite the storm's ferocity. Neighbors visited one another cautiously, checking in and sharing stories. Soft laughter filled the air as families recounted their experiences, the mishaps, the scares, and the little victories of the long, snowy night. There was a profound sense of connection, as if the storm had woven a silent bond among all who had endured it together. Children peeked outside, watching the snow glisten, sometimes chasing after birds or examining icicles that hung like frozen chandeliers. The parents, meanwhile, repaired small damages to windows, doors, and fences, making their homes ready for the next cold night. By afternoon, the sunlight softened further, casting long shadows across the snow. The world seemed both silent and alive at the same time, each crunch of footsteps reminding them of the fragility and resilience of life. Families sat together, telling gentle stories, singing soft tunes, or quietly mending clothes. Every action was slow, deliberate, filled with a calm awareness that the world had paused in the storm, and now they could move gently forward again. Evening approached, and the firelight flickered in every home, casting soft shadows on walls lined with memories, readying everyone for another long, quiet night. There was no fear now, only a calm, reflective gratitude for warmth, for togetherness, for life itself in the quiet aftermath of the blizzard. As night fell once more, a deep calm settled over the towns and villages. The world outside was a silent expanse of white, the snow stretching endlessly under the pale glow of the moon. Families prepared for sleep with care, layering blankets, checking that every window was secure against the biting cold. The fire, now soft and steady, was the heart of the home, its warmth radiating slowly through every corner. Parents whispered gentle reassurances to their children, tucking them close and smoothing hair from tired faces. Stories of the day's survival mingled with old folk tales, each word spoken slowly like a lullaby, soothing both body and mind. The storm outside was no longer raging. It had passed, leaving silence and stillness. The children's breathing evened, their small chests rising and falling in rhythmic calm. Adults sat quietly by the fire, reflecting on the night behind them, the challenges faced, and the little triumphs of endurance and resourcefulness. Occasionally, a soft creak from the house or a distant sound from the snowy street reminded them of the world beyond. But inside there was only warmth, only the gentle hum of life going on. Families drifted toward sleep slowly, each heart filled with relief, gratitude, and a quiet awe at nature's power and their own resilience. As the night deepened, the snow outside shimmered faintly, a soft reminder of the great blizzard that had passed. The world was calm, peaceful, and still, and in this quiet, families rested, ready to face the next day together. The first light of dawn crept gently through frosted windows, casting pale golden rays across rooms still filled with quiet warmth. The snow outside sparkled, a sparkling blanket covering streets, fields, and rooftops. Families began to stir slowly, stretching weary muscles and rubbing sleep from their eyes. The fire, still warm from the night, hissed softly as logs shifted and settled. Breakfast was prepared cautiously, with whatever provisions remained, warm porridge, a bit of bread, and sometimes a small bit of preserved fruit. Children peered out the windows, marveling at the transformed world, the silence almost magical, broken only by the occasional crunch of footsteps in the snow. Adults stepped outside briefly, testing the deep snow, marking paths to neighbors and checking on fences, animals, and barns. Conversations were soft and careful about what had passed, what was still needed, and how the family had endured. Every small success, keeping warm, feeding the children, protecting the home, was quietly celebrated. There was a sense of wonder in the air, a feeling of having survived something immense and unpredictable. Despite the hardships, there was comfort in routine. Chores, small and familiar, grounded the family. The warmth of home, the closeness of loved ones, and the small joys of daily life reminded them that life went on, even after a night as harsh as the blizzard. As the day fully opened, the world outside seemed almost new, and families moved gently through the morning, grateful for each other, for their homes, and for the simple act of waking safely after the long, quiet night of the storm. As the days passed after the blizzard, families slowly returned to their usual routines, though the world outside was still transformed. Snowbanks towered along roads, and trees were heavy with ice and frost. Children, once cooped up indoors, cautiously ventured outside to play, their laughter soft but full of relief, careful not to slip on frozen patches or get lost in high drifts. They helped with small chores too, shoveling paths, gathering firewood, learning the importance of teamwork and resilience. Adults repaired what had been damaged, patching roofs, fixing fences, and making sure animals were fed and warm. Life required patience, and each task was done slowly, deliberately, as families rebuilt a sense of safety and normalcy. Neighbors shared stories of the storm, comparing how each had endured the night. There was quiet pride in survival, and the knowledge that together communities could weather even the harshest conditions. Evenings returned to their calm routines, fires crackling in stoves. Families gathered around tables for simple meals, and the gentle rhythm of life continued, a comforting reminder that after even the fiercest storms, life goes on. As night settled once again, families gathered around the warm glow of their hearths. The storm was behind them, but its memory lingered in the quiet moments. Parents whispered stories to children, not of fear, but of courage and care. How neighbors helped each other, how small acts of kindness kept everyone safe. The youngest ones, still wide-eyed, felt a mix of awe and comfort, learning that even in darkness and cold, warmth and safety could be found. Older children quietly reflected on their own bravery, how they had managed chores, watched over younger siblings, and endured the long hours when the wind howled outside. The night moved slowly, gently, as the fire crackled and shadows danced softly on the walls. Outside, the world was silent, blanketed in snow, but inside, hearts were full of gratitude and calm. Families realized that the simple routines of life, eating, talking, sleeping, were treasures that the storm had made them appreciate even more. As the fire dimmed and eyelids grew heavy, there was a sense of peace and quiet triumph, a deep, reflective calm that only comes after surviving something great together. Morning light crept softly through frosted windows, painting the snow outside in gentle shades of white and silver. Families awoke slowly, stretching from the long night of rest. There was a quiet satisfaction in the air, a sense of survival, and a subtle joy in seeing the sun rise after such a fierce storm. Parents moved carefully, checking on everyone, making sure each child was warm and fed, and that no small misfortune had escaped notice during the night. Breakfast was simple, often warmed over from the previous day but shared with gratitude, each bite a reminder of comfort and routine. Children played quietly near the windows, gazing at the snow-covered world with wonder, their laughter soft and cautious, blending with the gentle morning stillness. The air smelled crisp and fresh, and for a moment the hardships of the storm seemed distant, as if the night had been a dream and morning a gentle promise. Even the pets, curled up near the hearth, stretched lazily, sensing the calm that had returned to the home. As the day slowly unfolded, families stepped outside carefully, leaving small footprints in the thick, untouched snow, each one a tiny testament to resilience, care, and the quiet victories of the night before. After the first morning, families turned their attention to small repairs. Windows and doors that had rattled or cracked in the storm were gently secured. Blankets and clothing, damp from the night, were hung near the fire to dry. Children helped in small ways, fetching wood or carrying buckets of water. Their movements were slow, careful, almost ritualistic, as if honoring the night they had endured. Some families ventured outside to inspect their surroundings. Snowdrifts blocked paths, fences were bent under the weight of ice, but there was a quiet satisfaction in seeing their home still standing. Meals were taken slowly, with care to savor warmth and nourishment. Families shared stories from the night before, sometimes laughing, sometimes nodding in quiet agreement about the challenges faced. Even as the day lengthened, the world outside felt frozen and serene, a reminder of both the storm's power and the quiet resilience of those inside. Small acts, repairing a window, clearing a path, lighting the hearth again, became symbols of recovery, each one comforting and reassuring. As the day moved on, families settled into the gentle rhythm of survival, aware of the storm's presence even as life slowly returned to its usual pace. As evening approached, a new calm settled over the homes. The sun, low in the sky, cast long, soft shadows across the snow. Inside, the warmth of the fire spread slowly, touching every corner of the room. Families gathered together once more, moving quietly, almost reverently. The children, tired from the day's work, leaned against their parents or siblings. Stories were told again, this time gentler, slower, almost like a whisper. Meals were simple but comforting, eaten in near silence as each person reflected on the night that had passed. Outside, the world was hushed. The wind had mostly faded. Snow sparkled under the last light of the sun, smooth and unbroken. It was a world transformed, frozen in stillness, yet full of quiet beauty. By candlelight or lamplight, families repaired small things before bed. Blankets were fluffed, fires replenished, and doors checked once more. The rhythm of care and preparation became soothing, almost meditative. And as darkness fully embraced the land, the quiet, soft breathing of sleep began again, with hearts slightly lighter, reassured that they had survived and would survive again. Night deepened slowly, stretching its dark veil over the snow-covered town. The wind had quieted, but the memory of its roar lingered in every creaking roof and shutter. Inside, small flames flickered in hearths, sending dancing shadows across walls. Families moved softly, careful not to wake those already sleeping. The children, now snug under layers of blankets, drifted into dreams. Parents watched them for a moment, their eyes reflecting relief and quiet pride. Outside, snow muffled every sound, creating a strange, peaceful silence. The world seemed paused, as if holding its breath after the storm's fury. Footsteps were rare, each one careful, deliberate, and measured. Some families whispered prayers of thanks, gratitude for safety and warmth. A gentle calm settled over hearts, mingling with exhaustion and relief. Even the livestock in barns seemed to sense the quiet, lying down peacefully. As the night wore on, a slow, steady rhythm of breathing filled every home. The harsh memories of the day softened in the embrace of the firelight. In this gentle darkness, the families of 1888 found their rest, fragile yet enduring. As the first light of dawn crept over the snowy landscape, the world felt new again. The storm had passed, leaving a blanket of white that sparkled quietly in the soft morning light. Families stirred slowly, stretching tired limbs, thankful to have survived the night. Doors opened carefully, revealing drifts of snow, untouched and pristine. Children ran outside, laughter breaking the morning silence, their cheeks red from cold and excitement. Parents followed, carrying small tools to clear paths, hearts lighter with each careful step. Neighbors greeted each other with quiet smiles, sharing news, warmth, and sometimes small meals. The hardships of the night faded in the company of friends and family, a shared story of resilience. Every home had its own tale of courage, resourcefulness, and simple acts of care. The 1888 blizzard left memories etched in every heart, but also a reminder of human endurance. Through frozen nights, roaring winds, and endless snow, families had clung together, protected one another, and survived. The world was still cold, still white, but inside each home burned warmth stronger than the storm. And as the morning sun reflected off the snow, a quiet truth remained. Even in the harshest winters, love, care, and family could bring light to the darkest nights. So let us close our eyes now, imagining the gentle warmth of a hearth, the quiet sighs of peaceful sleep, and drift with calm hearts into our own night, carrying a whisper of courage and togetherness from the past. Good night.